Hey guys, I'm back to another video. Small disclaimer before we get started. I said this was going to be my top 15 roller coasters. This is my top 10. My top 15 will come in October. Now into the coasters. The first one up is Mystic Timbers at number 10. Mystic Timbers opened in 2017 and is a GCI wooden roller coaster. It stands at a height of 109 feet, has a speed of 53 miles an hour, and has a length of 3,265 feet. This is a decent little wooden coaster. The height and speed don't really pop out at you, but it does have some decent ejector airtime at points in the ride, and some good lateral forces. However, this ride cannot be any higher because of the short ride experience, and overall not being the best ride on most of my rides on it. Some rides you get insane airtime that would make you think this is a top 5 worthy coaster, but other times you get airtime, little to no airtime, that makes you think this coaster doesn't even belong in my top 20. So that's my thoughts on Mystic Timbers. Now on to Afterburn. Afterburn at Carowinds is a B&M inverted coaster, standing at a height of 113 feet, going 62 miles an hour and having a length of 2,956 feet. This is one of the most intense roller coasters I've ever been on, thanks to B&M's tighter inversions that are located on this coaster compared to the larger ones on an invert like Banshee. This coaster doesn't have as much of a B&M rattle as other newer B&Ms do, but it is kind of rough and you do hit your head a little bit on the over-the-shoulder restraints, but the intense inversions and overall an amazing layout make up for that. That's why I have Afterburn ranked over Mystic Timbers and inside my top 10. Next up is the Beast. The Beast is a built-in house wooden coaster that has a drop of 141 feet, goes 65 miles an hour, has a length of 7,361 feet. This coaster is not overly intense and does have some dull moments. However, that 7,361 feet makes it seem like this ride never ends. This is one of the longest coasters you'll ever ride, and it feels even longer in the woods. The Beast night rides are really what keeps it inside my top 10, as they are completely unmatched by any other coaster. The Beast feels like a different monster at night. It feels overall more intense and even more scary because you can't really see much in the woods late at night at Kings Island. If you ride it at the right times, sometimes at night, mostly on the last train of the night, they'll sometimes even run it trimless, which makes this ride even more crazy. This ride's best element is its ending helix after the second drop. That's one of the best, most intense elements on a coaster that was very dull from the very start. After that is Banshee. Banshee is a B&M inverted coaster that opened in 2014, standing at a height of 167 feet, having a speed of 68 miles an hour and a length of 4,124 feet. This is the world's longest inverted coaster, and you can really feel that length with Banshee, because for an inverted coaster, this feels like one that never really ends. This ride also has some very graceful inversions that you don't normally see on an inverted coaster. It kind of reminds you more of a wing coaster than an inverted coaster, because it's not overall as intense as those. But don't get me wrong, Banshee is still super intense, especially in the back row. Back row Banshee is completely different from any other row on the train, because it feels overall way more intense and so much of a better ride. The only thing that keeps Banshee lower in my rankings is that horrible B&M rattle you get on most rides, and especially in the blue and teal trains. The purple one isn't near as bad though. Next up is Diamondback. Diamondback is a B&M hypercoaster that stands at a height of 230 feet, has a speed of 80 miles an hour, and a length of 5,282 feet. This ride is packed with floater airtime from start to finish, with the first half, if you have enough room and are not stapled, standing out of your seat. The second half is a little slower after the mid-course brake run, but it all makes up for it with its ending helix into the best looking element at Kings Island, the splashdown. This is one of the coolest looking elements at Kings Island, and if you're in the back row, you can even get a little wet if you put your hand back there. But the main thing that keeps Diamondback down is it's not a super intense ride, because it's more focused on floater airtime, and also it does have a B&M rattle, kind of like Banshee. Next up is Fury 325. Fury 325 is a B&M giga coaster standing at a height of 325 feet, going 95 miles an hour with a length of 6,602 feet. This ride has some really good floater airtime and some decent intense elements, and a little bit of whip. However, when I rode Fury, my first ride was full of whip but had no airtime. I went back 2 more times to Fury, and the second ride had a little bit of airtime but no whip. And the third ride had quite a bit of airtime, but it also had no whip. So Fury is a very confusing coaster, because I feel like either it had whip or it had airtime. There was really no in between with Fury, and that's why it's lower in my rankings. Also say no to Crack, because Fury was recently closed because of that. Next up is Copperhead Strike at Carowinds. Copperhead Strike is a mock multi-launch coaster, standing at a height of 82 feet, going 50 miles an hour and a length of 3,255 feet. Now these stats might not stand out to you, however this ride is super intense and is full of hang time. My favorite element on Copperhead is the JoJo roll right out of the station. This element has insane hang time that makes it almost feel unsafe, but it clearly is because of the restraint that holds you into your seat. But if you think Copperhead is done with hang time, you'd be dead wrong. This ride launches you into a vertical loop that's also full of hang time. Copperhead's main focus is hang time, however you do get nice pops of floater airtime throughout the layout. That's why I rank Copperhead Strike as my number 4 coaster, and just ahead of Fury. Next up is Max Force at Six Flags Great America. Max Force is an SNS air launch coaster, standing at a height of 175 feet, going 78 miles an hour with a length of 1,800. This is not a super long coaster, however this ride makes up for it with a super punchy launch that's super forceful and is one of the most punchy launches I've ever experienced, and it's probably is just below the hydraulic launch system. Then you launch up into the dog tongue double inverting element, being one of the best elements on the ride, and then you drop down, and this ride does not have much airtime, but it makes up for it with an amazing world's fastest inversion. You absolutely whip through it, being one of the most intense elements I've ever experienced, probably just being below the level that Maverick's hardline roll would have been if they had ever opened with that. And just because of those two reasons, that's why Max Force ranks as my number 3 coaster. Next up is Orion, the B&M Giga Coaster. Orion is a B&M Giga Coaster that stands at a height of 287 feet, has a speed of 91 miles per hour, and a length of 5,321 feet. Orion is best in the back row, with that drop being absolutely insane compared to and even better than a ride like Fury's, even though Fury's drop is slightly longer. This drop is absolutely insane. You get near ejector airtime in the back row. That thing is trying to launch you into space. Then you go up and go through the wave turn. It's not very forceful and not a very important part of the ride, and it's pretty forgettable. Then you go up into the turnaround, which is also pretty forgettable, but then you hit the best element of Orion, the speed hill. This overall is the best airtime moment on Orion and one of the best ones at Kings Island, other than the first drop in the back row. Then you go into a low to the ground helix before going up. No, you go into a camelback hill, and then you go through a helix, and then you go through an off-center airtime hill. Now, the trimmed camelback does not provide much airtime at all, but that off-center hill right before the brake run provides some great floater airtime. And my number 1 coaster overall is Goliath at Six Flags Great America. Goliath is a topper track wooden coaster that stands at a height of 165 feet, has a 180 foot first drop, and goes 72 miles an hour with a length of 3,100 feet. This might not seem like a very impressive coaster, but it makes up for that with its 2 great pops of ejector airtime and its 2 amazing inversions. The 0G stall under the lift hill is one of the best looking and one of the best hang time moments out there. That's why Goliath ranks as my number 1 coaster, and I don't expect that to change until I get to Cedar Point later this year. Bye guys, see you all next time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Happy National Roller Coaster Day. I'll see you all next time.